When it comes to the trade deadline, there's constant headlines popping up every couple hours. Anthony Davis is traded, Kristaps Porzingis is traded, Giannis might be traded. It's easy for smaller stories to slip through the cracks during this time. And one of those stories that I feel like is slipping through the cracks has to do with the New Orleans Pelicans. Because what they are doing right now at the trade deadline is a generational masterclass when it comes to team management. And what they are doing right now at the trade deadline is leaving me completely baffled. And you might be asking now, what exactly are they doing? Well, that's the problem. They're doing nothing. But very quickly before we get into the rest of this video, if you guys enjoy this type of content, all things NBA, make sure to hit that like button on this video. And if you guys want to stick around, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I am on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get monetized here on YouTube. And so right now, any subscription, anybody that wants to join my community, it means so much to me. Also, make sure to comment down below your thoughts on the New Orleans Pelicans and what the front office is doing, or I guess not doing. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Let me know. With all that out of the way, let's talk hoops. So late last night I was on Twitter and I saw this tweet from 6 Rings of Steel saying the Pelicans are 13-39 and apparently have the most untouchable roster in the NBA. And I had kind of taken note of that over this last month or so, looking at, trade deadline rumors and everything like that, seeing how untouchable and how unwilling the Pelicans have been to move their core roster. But then I saw this tweet. The Pelicans reportedly believe that they have a playoff roster and are not interested in trading their core players. I'm not sure if they mixed up the word playoff and lottery bound in their heads, but what are the Pelicans talking about right now? And what is going on in New Orleans right now genuinely needs to be talked about more by the NBA fan base. Let's start with this playoff roster core that they believe that they have. And that starts with Zion Williamson. Now, I like Zion Williamson. I think Zion Williamson is a good player when he's healthy. And the Pelicans, rightfully so, believe that as well. Because so far in Zion's career, his biggest issue has been his availability. And so personally for me, I can understand that after last season, a season where Zion only played 30 games, the Pelicans rightfully thought, once we get a healthy, available Zion, this team could be really good. But then you fast forward to this season, and Zion has played in 37 out of about 50 games that the Pelicans have played so far. And so while, yes, he hasn't played in every game, 37 out of, 50 is a lot better than what we've seen in seasons past. There's been multiple seasons where Zion has played in 30 or less games in the whole season, and now he's almost up to 40 so far. But we haven't seen the Pelicans get any better. And so the fact that the Pelicans still think that Zion is like a key piece of this core and they can win with him is the most delusional thing I've ever seen in my life, dude. He's proving right now that even when he's more available than he has been in the past, the Pelicans still only have 13 wins on the entire season. What are we talking about here, guys? Then we move on to their actual solid players like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, 2 pieces that are looked at as ultra valuable assets around the league. But according to the Pelicans, both Trey Murphy and Herb Jones are completely untouchable in trade talks. And even when they're made available, the Pelicans are like, yeah, we're going to need a Giannis level package in order to trade Trey Murphy. They will straight up talk with NBA teams and be like, yeah, we're going to need 5 first-round picks and 3 young, promising, developing talents in order to get rid of Trey Murphy. And so it's so frustrating to watch a team that for the last couple years has been horrible in the Western Conference and for the last 4 or 5 years has been no better than a mediocre Western Conference team and be like, no, this core can still work out for us. Even though we have a multitude of evidence that they don't play well together and they don't result in winning basketball, no, I still think that this is a playoff roster. And if you want to pry one of these players from our cold, dead hands, we're going to make it so that you have to give up your entire team in order to get one of them. It's just insane to me how the Pelicans front office genuinely think they hold so much power in these Trey Murphy and Herb Jones trade talks to the point to where they can just ask for insane return packages and think that NBA teams are going to bite on it. Guys, you're 13-39. Every NBA team that sees that is going to be like, no, dude, we're way better off without trading that package, and you're obviously way worse off without trading that package. So why would we do this deal? And that's the biggest problem that I have with the Pelicans and their obsession with this core that they have. For the last couple seasons, they've been trying to trade on the margins to get players to build around, this roster, and it just isn't working out. Like, a season ago, they traded for DeJounte Murray. And yes, DeJounte Murray had injury issues, and his disappointing season with them wasn't really up to him. It was up to his body. But, that's still looked at as a failure of a trade. And so then in this offseason, they go out and they get Jordan Poole, who sucks for them, dude. He's shooting 37% from the field. Guys, there's only so many moves you can make to build around this core and realize that it's not working until you finally realize the core is the problem. It's not the guys you put around the core, it's the core. And surprise, surprise, the only player that the Pelicans are willing to give up is him, a guy that nobody wants in the league. Nobody wants a ball-dominant guard that shoots so inefficiently like Jordan Poole. But then the players that the Pelicans could genuinely get good returns for, like Trey Murphy, like Herb Jones, like Zion Williamson still, the Pelicans just ask for way too much to the point to where every NBA team just laughs at them and turns them away. And that's nobody's fault other than the front office for the New Orleans Pelicans. And, unfortunately, I have a little history with this front office because the main guy in charge right now that is making moves is Joe Dumars. And while, yes, Joe Dumars at one point put together a championship roster for my favorite team, the Detroit Pistons, after that championship, I watched Joe Dumars spend 15 years unwilling to ever make serious moves to commit to a rebuild and had to sit and watch the Pistons sit in NBA purgatory where they got late lottery pick after late lottery pick after late lottery pick and never fully committing to a rebuild for 15 years of my life. And only after he left, the Pistons decided to finally commit to a full rebuild under Troy Weaver, and now we see where the Pistons are at right now. But what gets even funnier is that guy, Troy Weaver, is the second in command for the New Orleans Pelicans making decisions with Joe Dumars. And Troy Weaver was the man who concocted the roster that went 14-68 for the Detroit Pistons 2 seasons ago and also has the longest losing streak in NBA history. And now I am watching them ruin this Pelicans squad the same way they ruined the Pistons for so many years, because Joe Dumars is unwilling to trade away his core players when there's a multitude of history and evidence that this core just doesn't play well together and doesn't result in winning games. But he will try and ride these guys until the end of time, until it's too late. Until Trey Murphy, until Zion, until Herb Jones are looked at as having zero value whatsoever across the league. And so I believe that the Pelicans front office is just completely delusional at this point and just genuinely do not understand how bad of a roster they have and how bad of a core that they have. Not talent-wise, but just fit-wise. They just don't fit well together. They are talented players. Trey Murphy is a sought-after asset across the entire league. Herb Jones the same. Zion, a little less value, but is still looked at as a positive asset that a lot of teams would want to go out and get. But together, they just don't work. But Joe Dumars is somehow still convinced that this team that is going 13-39 this season and went 21-61 last season, that they are somehow still a playoff roster. It doesn't get worse than that, folks. If I'm in charge of the New Orleans Pelicans, I am selling so hard at this deadline. It is very obvious that this core just isn't it for the New Orleans Pelicans. And I think the only people in the entire world that don't see that are Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver and the front office of the New Orleans Pelicans. And this trade deadline has officially exposed them to how delusional they really are. Now, I will say I am recording this video about 4 hours before the trade deadline officially ends. And so if you guys end up seeing this video, which I believe you will, it will probably be because the Pelicans do not make any sort of moves by the end of the deadline. And, you know, this video still stands. But that's really all I got for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, if you guys made it this far, if you guys are still watching, first of all, thank you guys so much for sticking around. But also, you know, you made it this far. You obviously liked the video. Just hit that like button. Also, again, if you guys want to stick around, see more of my content, I cover all things NBA. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join me on the road to 1,000 subscribers and trying to get monetized here. I would really appreciate it. Also, again, make sure to comment down below your thoughts on the New Orleans Pelicans. Am I way off base with this take? Do you think that the Pelicans have a playoff roster that they can build around, or do you think it's time for them to blow it up? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys think. Lastly, if you guys want to see more content from me, YouTube actually thinks you'll really like this video right here. So once this video wraps up, click on that one, and I'm sure you'll see another great piece of NBA content that you'll really enjoy. But with that being said, as always, guys, peace and love.